Here's what most fans don't realize about Tama Tonga's absence from MFT's biggest moments. While everyone was focused on the drama unfolding on screen, there was a behind-the-scenes story that could change everything we think we know about Solo Sikoa's master plan. Let me paint you a picture. April 2024. Tama Tonga was riding high as the unhinged wildcard of the new Bloodline. His chaotic energy, those unpredictable promos, the way he could turn any match into absolute mayhem, fans were eating it up. Then suddenly, silence. An injury sidelined him just as MFT was being born. But here's the question that's been haunting me. Was this injury really just bad timing, or was it part of something bigger? Think about it. While Tama was recovering, we witnessed JC Matteo's debut, Jacob Fatu's shocking betrayal, and Tama Tonga's explosive arrival. 3 massive moments that shaped MFT's identity. Yet the man who first earned the My Family Tree moniker was nowhere to be seen. That's not just unfortunate timing, that's a narrative goldmine waiting to explode. Now, I've been digging through social media, analyzing every post, every hint, every cryptic message. Remember Solo's declaration on July 5th, "The family is complete." Elite Club's post went viral, with fans immediately speculating that Tama was being written out. But I'm telling you, that's exactly what WWE wants you to think. They're playing the long game here. Here's why Tama's return isn't just likely, it's inevitable, and it's going to be spectacular. First, the family connection runs deeper than most realize. Tama isn't just another wrestler looking for a faction to join. He's Tongaloa's brother and Tama Tonga's half-brother. In Samoan and Tongan culture, family bonds aren't just storylines, they're sacred. Solo Sikoa understands this better than anyone. Second, MFT desperately needs what Tama brings to the table. Sure, they have power with Tama Tonga's 6 feet 8 inches frame and intimidation factor. They have experience with Tongaloa's ruthless veteran presence. But they're missing that unpredictable X factor that made the original Bloodline so compelling. Tama Tonga is chaos personified, and chaos creates the most memorable moments in wrestling. Picture this scenario, and tell me it doesn't give you chills. SummerSlam 2025. Solo Sikoa is defending his United States Championship against Jacob Fatu in what's being billed as the ultimate family betrayal match. The crowd is electric, the tension is suffocating. Fatu is dominating, using every dirty trick in the book. Solo is bloodied, beaten, and it looks like his reign, and MFT's credibility, is about to end. The referee is down. Fatu grabs a steel chair. He's about to deliver the killing blow when suddenly, silence. The arena goes dark. Then, cutting through the darkness like a knife, Tama Tonga's music hits. The crowd erupts in a way we haven't heard since The Rock's surprise return. Tama storms down the ramp, not just as a returning wrestler, but as the prodigal son coming home to save his family. But here's the twist that could make this moment legendary. What if Tama doesn't just save Solo? What if his return reveals that his injury was a work, that he's been orchestrating events from behind the scenes? Imagine him grabbing the microphone and revealing that every major MFT moment, Matteo's recruitment, Fatu's betrayal, even Tala's debut, was part of his master plan. Suddenly, the silent enforcer narrative around Solo gets flipped, and Tama emerges as the true mastermind. This isn't just about adding another body to MFT. This is about completing a puzzle that fans didn't even realize was missing pieces. Tama's New Japan Pro Wrestling pedigree brings international credibility. His connection to the Gorillas of Destiny tag team adds another layer of legitimacy. Most importantly, his ability to cut promos that feel genuinely unhinged gives MFT the microphone skills they desperately need. The question isn't whether Tama will return, it's whether WWE has the courage to pull the trigger on what could be the most shocking family reunion in wrestling history. This is where things get uncomfortable, and I mean that in the best possible way. JC Matteo's situation in MFT represents everything that's both brilliant and problematic about modern WWE storytelling. He's the elephant in the room that nobody wants to talk about, but his fate could determine whether MFT becomes a legendary faction or just another footnote in wrestling history. Let me tell you a story that perfectly illustrates why Matteo's position is so precarious. When he debuted at Backlash, helping Solo Sikoa in his moment of greatest need, it felt organic. Here was a 42-year-old veteran, hungry for one last shot at relevance, aligning himself with wrestling's hottest rising star. The crowd bought it because it made sense. Matteo brought legitimacy, experience, and most importantly, he filled a gap when Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa were sidelined. But here's what changed everything. Solo's My Family Tree declaration wasn't just a rebrand, it was a mission statement. When Solo looked into that camera and emphasized family, he wasn't speaking metaphorically. In Samoan and Tongan culture, the concept of Aga, family, isn't just about blood relations, it's about spiritual connections that transcend ordinary relationships. It's about shared ancestry, shared struggles, and shared destiny. JC Matteo, for all his loyalty and contributions, exists outside this sacred circle. He's what wrestling fans call a hired gun, valuable in the moment, but ultimately expendable when the real family shows up. And that's exactly what's happening now. Look at the current landscape. Tama Tonga has established himself as the intimidating enforcer. Tonga Loa brings veteran savvy and tag team expertise. If Tama Tonga returns, that's three brothers united under Solo's leadership, a genuine family unit that tells a compelling story. Where does that leave Matteo? He becomes the odd man out, the reminder of a time when MFT needed outside help to survive. But here's where this gets psychologically fascinating. WWE has a choice to make, and both options are loaded with risk. Option 1. Keep Matteo and dilute the family narrative. This maintains stability but sacrifices the pure bloodline story that made the original faction so compelling. Option 2. Brutally remove Matteo and risk alienating fans who've grown attached to his underdog journey. I'm predicting they choose option 2, and here's how I think it plays out. Picture this scene. SmackDown, July 18th. Solo Sikoa calls MFT to the ring for what he announces as a family meeting. The crowd senses something big is coming. Solo thanks Matteo for his service, acknowledging his contributions during MFT's darkest hours. The crowd starts to get uncomfortable, they know what's coming. Then Solo delivers the killing blow. JC, you've been like family to us. But this is MY Family Tree, and some branches need to be pruned. Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa surround Matteo. The betrayal isn't just physical, it's emotional. They don't just beat him down, they systematically destroy everything he brought to the group. His gear, his confidence, his place in the wrestling world. But here's the genius part. This betrayal could be the making of JC Matteo as a singles competitor. Think about the story potential. A 42-year-old veteran, cast aside by the faction he helped build, now has the ultimate motivation for a revenge tour. He could target the Intercontinental Championship, using his anger as fuel for the best run of his career. The crowd would rally behind him because everyone loves a good underdog revenge story. However, there's a darker possibility that keeps me up at night. What if WWE handles this wrong? What if they make the betrayal so brutal, so unnecessarily cruel, that it turns fans against MFT entirely? Wrestling history is littered with factions that died because they went too far with their heel tactics. The NWO's endless expansion, Evolution's stale dominance, the Authority's overexposure, all cautionary tales about factions that lost their way. The Matteo situation is MFT's first real test of character. How they handle his exit will determine whether fans see them as a legitimate threat or just another group of bullies picking on the little guy. Solo Sikoa needs to thread the needle perfectly, showing enough ruthlessness to establish MFT's dangerous nature while maintaining enough honor to keep the family narrative intact. There's also the meta-narrative to consider. JC Matteo represents every older wrestler trying to extend their career, every performer who's been overlooked by the main event scene. His treatment by MFT becomes a statement about how WWE values veteran talent. Handle it with respect, and you honor the journey. Handle it poorly, and you send a message that loyalty means nothing in the face of politics and bloodlines. The clock is ticking on this decision, and every week that passes makes the eventual resolution more anticipated and more dangerous. Change number 1. Solo Sikoa brings in WWE legend Rikishi as the new leader of MFT, the Patriarch's return. Stop everything! What I'm about to tell you could completely rewrite not just MFT's future, but the entire landscape of WWE storytelling for the next decade. We're talking about a move so bold, so potentially explosive, that it makes every other wrestling storyline look like child's play. Rikishi stepping in as the leader of MFT isn't just a possibility, it's a necessity that WWE can't afford to ignore. And here's why this goes deeper than anyone realizes. For months, wrestling insiders have been whispering about Rikishi's frustration with how WWE has handled his family storylines. This isn't just a proud father watching from the sidelines. This is a wrestling legend who understands the business better than most current performers, watching his son's careers being shaped by decisions he has no control over. But what if that's about to change in the most dramatic way possible? Let me paint you a picture that should terrify every other faction in WWE. Imagine SmackDown, August 1st, Solo Sikoa is in the ring with MFT, celebrating another dominant victory. The crowd is buzzing, but something feels different. Solo grabs the microphone and says, "For too long, this family has been guided by outsiders. Paul Heyman guided Roman. Managers and advisors have whispered in our ears. But tonight, MFT welcomes home its true patriarch." The arena goes silent. Then, cutting through the tension like thunder, Rikishi's music hits. But this isn't the dancing, fun-loving Rikishi of the Attitude Era. This is a 59-year-old wrestling legend walking to the ring with the weight of family legacy on his shoulders. The crowd doesn't know whether to cheer or run for cover. Here's what makes this scenario absolutely terrifying for WWE's roster. Rikishi isn't just Solo's father, he's Jimmy Uso's father too. This creates a psychological warfare situation that wrestling has never seen before. Picture Rikishi standing in that ring, looking directly into the camera, and saying, "Jimmy, you chose Roman over your own blood. Now watch what happens when family truly comes first." The storytelling possibilities are endless and absolutely brutal. Rikishi could reveal that he's been orchestrating Solo's rise from the beginning. Every betrayal, every alliance, every championship victory, all part of a master plan to restore the Anoa'i family to its rightful place at the top of WWE. Suddenly, Solo isn't just a rebel breaking away from Roman's shadow, he's the chosen son executing his father's vision. But here's where this gets psychologically complex. Rikishi's presence would force every member of the extended Samoan wrestling family to choose sides. Roman Reigns, The Rock, Jimmy Uso, Jey Uso, everyone would have to decide whether they're with the Patriarch or against him. This isn't just faction warfare, this is a family civil war with real emotional stakes. The strategic advantages are staggering. Rikishi brings 4 decades of wrestling knowledge to MFT. He's seen every trick, survived every era, and understands crowd psychology better than most current performers. His guidance could transform MFT from a powerful faction into an unstoppable dynasty. More importantly, his presence legitimizes Solo's leadership in a way that no championship victory ever could. Consider the promo possibilities. Rikishi on the microphone, talking about watching his sons navigate the wrestling business and seeing them manipulated by promoters and managers who don't understand family loyalty. his voice carrying the weight of experience as he explains why MFT represents the future of the Anoa'i legacy. The crowd would hang on every word because they'd know they're witnessing something historic. But here's the twist that could make this legendary. What if Rikishi's ultimate goal isn't to lead MFT but to reunite the entire family under one banner? Imagine him playing the long game, using his influence with Solo to eventually bring Jimmy, Jay, and even Roman back into the fold. The Bloodline saga wouldn't end, it would evolve into something bigger than anyone imagined. The risks are equally massive. If Rikishi sides completely with Solo against Jimmy, it could create real-life family tension that spills over into their personal relationships. Wrestling storylines have destroyed real families before, and the Anoa'i family is too important to the business to risk that kind of damage. There's also the question of Rikishi's physical involvement. At 59, he's not going to be taking bumps or having matches. His role would be purely strategic and psychological, which means WWE would need to book him perfectly to maintain his intimidation factor without exposing his physical limitations. The most intriguing possibility is that Rikishi's involvement could attract The Rock back to WWE programming. Imagine The Rock being forced to choose between his cousin Roman and his uncle Rikishi. That's the kind of family drama that transcends wrestling and becomes mainstream entertainment. This isn't just about adding star power to MFT, it's about creating a storyline so compelling, so emotionally complex, that it could define WWE programming for years to come. The question isn't whether WWE should pull the trigger on this idea. The question is whether they have the courage to handle a story this powerful without letting it consume everything else on their programming.